Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are in the thick of week 9 of the 2025 college football season. We are going to be breaking down the 3-game Friday slate on DraftKings. We're going to tell you what you can expect from each game, as well as who needs to be in or out of your DFS lineups here on this Friday night slate. We'll also be having ton of information if you are looking to bet player props, or if you're looking to bet sides and totals in these 3 games, or if you're just a good old-fashioned fan of college football and want to hear a guy talk passionately about the sport of college football. This is the place for you. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That we can be with us for the rest of our content throughout the rest of the college football season. I've said it time and time again, I'm going to try to get to every single slate I can get to, but I'm not going to always make it to every slate. But if you're subscribed, you will know when the new content drops. All right, without further ado, we got 3 games to break down. Let's go ahead and dive in. All right, game number 1 is North Texas traveling to Charlotte to take on my alma mater, the Charlotte 49ers. Good season for Charlotte, y'all. We've had kind of a rough go of it. Brand new head coach Tim Albin brought in a ton of transfers, totally revamped the roster from last year, and just hasn't really worked yet. I'm still a believer in Albin long term, but it's a multi-year rebuild. It's not going to be solved in 1 year. Rome wasn't built in a day. So in this game, North Texas, one of the top teams in the American, they're pretty heavy favorites. They're favored by 26.5 points with a game total of 60.5, meaning the implied score is about 43-17 in favor of the Mean Green. Now, on the North Texas side, this is a team that is winning different ways than they used to. North Texas used to be a complete air raid team, just throw it all over the yard, right? And they're not that anymore. They currently rank 99th in the nation in pass rate. This is a team that's looking to run the football more, and it shows in the stat lines. But the one thing I will point out is they have not really played a whole lot of close games. I think that that's a little bit of an inflated rush rate because of the fact that they are playing in a lot of blowouts. And so if Charlotte's able to keep this close, could we see more passing attempts? Absolutely a possibility. But Drew Mestemaker in his last few games has been really, really solid. He's up at $8,500, which is a high price tag to pay for a guy who is not really a running threat. But anytime you've got an implied team total of 43 points, you got to have interest in the quarterback, and that starts with Mestemaker. At the running back position, we mentioned North Texas is running the ball a ton. They have recently had a shift, and Caleb Hawkins is now a workhorse running back for this team. In 3 of the last 4 games, which have all been against G5 competition, remember, by the time we get to this point of the season, I am a huge proponent of looking at comparable stats. So I'm looking at conference play. I'm looking at other games against G5 opponents. And in his last 4 games, Caleb Hawkins has been over 33 DraftKings points in 4 of them. The one that he wasn't was against South Florida, one of the best G5 teams in all college football. So Charlotte is not that. Charlotte is actually quite a run funnel as well. They rank 134th in rushing yards allowed, as opposed to 28th in passing yards allowed. Now, granted, I think that that's kind of a byproduct of Charlotte has played some run-heavy teams like Rice and Army or Navy. They played one of the service academies. And I think that if you were to look at EPA or success rate, I think that their pass defense would rate out pretty bad also. But if North Texas is a team that's choosing to run the football and Charlotte is giving it up to the run, it makes a ton of sense to play Caleb Hawkins at 8,000. You've also got Mackenzie McGill at 5,700. He was kind of looking like the running back 1 at the start of the season. Has really kind of been phased out in favor of Hawkins, but that's to say that McGill is a total nothing. He absolutely could come through here in this one. And then you've also got Kiefer Sibley, who has played recently. He played in the game against UTSA last week. I'm not totally sold that game was a blowout. But then again, this game could be a blowout, so maybe he might be the garbage time guy. At the wide receiver position for North Texas, this is kind of a frustrating team to target the wide receivers for. They do throw it to quite a few targets, but there are 2 that kind of do carry the side. Miles Coleman is their best one, in my opinion. He did not play the most recent game against UTSA, and he's currently listed as questionable for this one. I don't know if he's going to play or not. He's very clearly their wide receiver 1 if he does. Their second most targeted wide receiver on the season is Wyatt Young. Naturally, in the UTSA game, when Miles Coleman did not play, Wyatt Young put up 37 DraftKings points. It seems quite logical to go right back to him. And also, Landon Sides is another guy who plays a ton of snaps for this team. Held to a goose egg against UTSA, but he did play in the game. Cameron Dorner is also a guy who's coming on strong as of late, caught at least 5 passes in the last 2. He's a guy whose role is increasing with Miles Coleman being hurt, so he's a guy that I would certainly be looking at also. I do want to see one more thing. Now, Dalton Carnes was a guy that started for them last year, but I wanted to see if the injury to Coleman might have increased his role, but it doesn't appear that way. Coleman and Young, if Coleman is active. If Coleman is inactive, I would be looking at Young and Dorner. Now, on the Charlotte side, look, this is a team implied to score 17 points, playing with backup quarterbacks, projected to lose by 26 points. You don't have to play anybody on this team. I don't even know who the starter is going to be. Zach Wilkie played. He got the start against Army. Got the start against. Or I don't think he. I think he played most of the game, but didn't get the start against South Florida. Grayson Loftus was the QB2 to start the season. He did start and play the full game against Temple. He's a Duke transfer. I had high hopes for him. He has not been great this season. Carries 0 rushing upside. Has not put double-digit fantasy points in a game. I don't know which one of the two of them is going to start. I really don't. None of them have been officially named the starter. I mean, I guess neither of these guys have been very good. I think you could totally cross them off. The running back position, I do think there's a little bit of interest here. Rod Gainey Jr. has had a few workhorse games for this team, but they're kind of inconsistent. Cameron Smith is a guy that did have 11 carries last week against Temple. Is that something that's going to hold? That's his season high. And then CJ Stokes did not play in the Temple game. Hasn't played since the South Florida game, actually. But he's also not on the injury report anymore. So CJ Stokes coming with the wide receiver position. Here's the good news. Charlotte really only throws to two guys. Is Javen Nicholas, who is an LSU transfer. How Charlotte got an LSU transfer is beyond me, but he's pretty good. He's been their best receiver all year long. EJ Mason is questionable for this game. Hasn't played since the USF game. If he is active for this one, he's their number 2 receiver. He's worth a look. With Mason out, Miles Burris didn't really increase his role. He's been the wide receiver 3 all season. Sean Brown is a guy that probably would see a role increase if EJ Mason does continue to be out. He's been fairly consistently targeted over the last month. That would probably be what I would stick with this team is Nicholas and Mason if Mason is active, Nicholas and Brown if Mason is out. Next, let's talk game number 2, which is Cal traveling across the country to take on Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's 4.5-point favorites with a game total of 50.5, meaning the implied score is about 27-23 in favor of the Hokies. Y'all, this is a line that I find puzzling because I was under the impression that Cal was a better team than Virginia Tech. And this line suggests that Virginia Tech is slightly better on a neutral field than Cal is. Either that or they're just factoring in the cross-country travel and Enter Sandman as about 5 or 6 points. I don't get it. Either way, I think Cal's going to win the game. I think Cal is better. Virginia Tech defense is pretty bad, y'all. This is a defense you can target. Virginia Tech ranks 99th in rushing yards allowed and 85th in passing yards allowed. Jaron Sagapolatelli is the freshman quarterback for Cal. He's great. I think he's going to be really good. And I really think this team would be wise to go ahead and start coming up with the NIL money now to keep him in the offseason because there's going to be a ton of programs that are going to want this guy. From a DFS perspective, he's been good, not great this season, consistently scoring over 16 a game, but peaking at 24. Big reason why is because he is not a runner. He is also not a guy that likely gets you 300-yard bonuses. So he's going to have to get there on efficiency and touchdowns. But going up against Virginia Tech, I think he can do it. And I think $7,400 is a reasonable price, one of the top ones on paper. At the running back position, you see all these out tags that they got at running back for Cal right now. It means that Kendrick Raphael is getting the workhorse usage, and I think objectively he is up there among the top running back plays of the slate. He's been over 18 carries in each of the last 3 games, over 17 DraftKings points in each of the last 3 games. Great play. At the wide receiver position, I have some thoughts here for Cal. I really do. Jacob DeJesus, volume king last week. He's the slate's volume king overall. He's been targeted 69 times on the season. Nice. And that's through 7 games. So he's averaging about 10 targets a game. Nobody else on the entire slate is averaging more than 8 targets a game. So he's like a full target and a half ahead of everybody else, right? He's one of the slate's top options at wide receiver. Very clear stacking partner with Jaron Sagapolatelli. Now, Tron Grizel is actually 6th on the slate in targets at 41. He's down here at $4,300. Now, the counter argument will be he's not a guy that rips off a whole lot of explosives. He's not a guy that scores a lot of touchdowns, but he's consistently seeing volume, and he's at $4,300. I think he is also a great play. I think if you're playing Sagapolatelli play at quarterback. I do think you can double stack because the whole concept is he's going to have a lot of volume and a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns to get home. So it makes sense that he could support two receivers because he's not going to do a whole lot of running. The tight end, Mason Minnie, is also pretty solid. I would be totally fine just ignoring Minnie here on this slide. I think Grizel and DeJesus are the guys that you want. Now let's talk about Virginia Tech. So Virginia Tech's quarterback is Kyron Drones. He's been there for seems like quite a while now. At least it feels that way. He's a dual threat, which is not very common on this slate. There's not a whole lot of dual threat quarterbacks. He's not bad from a DFS perspective. He has had 3 games this season over 28 DraftKings points, and you could argue that he has the highest ceiling among any quarterback for that reason. This offense is really on his shoulders. When Virginia Tech has good offensive days, Kyron Drones has a good DFS performance. When they do not, he does not. It's quite correlated. And so I do think he's a guy that's going to be in a ton of my lineups because if this game shoots out or if Virginia Tech has a lot of success, it's going to be because of Kyron Drones. At the running back position, Darion Stewart's the best running back for this team, but he's been banged up. They haven't really played him like a whole lot, haven't really like given him the keys to the car yet, so to speak. Marcellus Hawkins has still been kind of like a human bowling ball. He's big, he's physical. I like how he runs, but it's hard to really advocate for him if they're not going to give him a huge workload. And the good news is like he's totally off the injury report now, but does that mean they're going to unleash him? I don't know. I think there's a lot of conjecture here. I think he's worth taking a shot in GPPs, but there's not a whole lot of safety. At the wide receiver position, this is where it gets interesting for Virginia Tech. So Aiden Green is their most targeted player on the season. He is also a guy that generally gets deep targets. However, the downside is he has a very low catch rate. Not a lot of his targets actually turn into catches, which is not good. It's like not what you want, right? Donovan Green is a Wake Forest transfer who also gets targeted fairly deep down the field, not a super high catch rate. He's only $3,900. I think the gap in price is a little bigger than the gap in production between those two. So I would lean playing Donovan Green over Aiden Green. If you're looking to play somebody else after them, there's not a whole lot of compelling arguments to be made. There's just not. Cam Selden is the 3rd most targeted wide receiver. This is a converted running back from Tennessee. He's a really good athlete. Could there be an argument that he could continue a breakout? I mean, maybe. He's only 3,400. I think if you're looking to punt the position, he's not a bad option. Takai Heath, 15 targets on the season. Benji Gosnell, the tight end, 15 targets in the season. Not super big roles for those guys, but worth mentioning. That is it for game number 2. Let's take a quick break. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. It's where I tweet out all updates for the show, as well as if you're just looking for advice, questions, lineups, anything like that, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I have no problem answering on there. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Fantasy Corner Discord is a community, a bunch of really smart, really good people who play DFS for a lot of different sports. If you're just looking for people to bounce ideas off of, talk lineups, talk strategies, I cannot recommend it enough. And it's not just for college football. There's a lot of sports covered in there also. And then if you want to know who actually makes my college football DFS lineups, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. Every single college football DFS slate, I post up my core plays as well as a write up why they're my core plays. So you're not only getting the plays themselves, but you're getting some information and some reasoning from someone who knows what they're talking about with this stuff. All right. Last game of the night is a battle in the Mountain West after dark. I feel like we get a ton of these on Friday nights. We've got Boise taking on Nevada. Boise is 21.5 point favorites with a game total of 51.5 points, meaning the implied score is about 36-15 in favor of Boise. Woof. Boise's defense, or let's start with Boise's offense, right? So Nevada's rush defense is not great. They're better than their pass defense is better than their rush defense. Nevada does rank 73rd in rushing yards allowed. Mason Madsen is Boise's quarterback, and I gotta say I'm not the biggest fan of playing this guy, especially at $8,100. I think I'd rather play drones. I'd rather play JKS. He doesn't really have 300-yard upside. He's kind of a game manager. You would be dependent on him scoring multiple touchdowns, which is certainly possible, but I don't know. I have a tough time swallowing that price tag for that type of player. The running back position for Boise, they've been fun all season long at running back, but the guy that has shown the most consistent upside is Dylan Riley. He has been over 15 carries in 4 of the last 5 games. The one that wasn't was against Notre Dame, where they were just done at the start. And he's been pretty consistently good. Now, against Air Force, he did put up 60 DraftKings points. That's obviously going to skew his totals and skew his averages, right? But he's been the guy for this team more often than not. Sire Gaines came into the season as the running back one, has had some big games also. You never really know who's going to go off between those two running backs. You can be pretty confident it's going to be one of those two, either Riley or Gaines, but you just there's upside to be had. You just don't know which one it's going to be. And it's more likely to be Riley than Gaines. But what that means is if you play Gaines and it is him, you're going to get an ownership discount, a salary discount, and you're likely to head to the top of the leaderboards. The wide receiver position for Boise, like I said, this is kind of a frustrating passing attack to offense. Frustrating passing passing offense to attack. That was the words I was looking for. This is a frustrating passing offense to attack because they're fairly spread out in terms of production, and they don't really throw the ball a whole lot. Now, what might be helpful to condense the offense a little bit is Ben Ford is out for the remainder of the season. I feel for him. He was having a breakout season. He looked pretty good every time I watched him. So his targets are going to go elsewhere now. Latrell Caples is the guy that leads in targets on the season. Like we were talking about with Aiden Green, he has a very low catch rate. It's not great for DFS when you're getting targeted a lot, but you're not actually catching them. Chris Marshall, second in targets on the season, has had a few pretty solid games. He's only $5,200. I kind of like his profile more than I like Caples. You've also got the tight end Matt Lauder, who is kind of hit or miss, hasn't put up more than 11 DraftKings points in a game so far this season. I'm kind of good on that one. And then Cameron Bates is a wide receiver who appears to have taken up Ben Ford's role. 3 catches last game, also had a rushing attempt for a touchdown at $3,200. Is there something there? I mean, maybe. I'm not going to shut the door on it. It appears he's taken Ford's role, but what is that role worth, really? He's an option. He's definitely worth putting in your player pool if you're playing here on this slate. Now, the quarterback position for Nevada has been really bad all season long. Carter Jones is now the starter. They finally benched Chubba Purdy, who was quite dreadful, if I'm being honest. They're kind of just now using Purdy as a wildcat option. But Jones is the starter. He hasn't been great. He's only hit 12 DraftKings points in 1 of 3 games, and that was 12.6 DraftKings points. Not what we're looking for. This Boise defense is also going to be the best defense he's played. This is not good. Could he show up and have the performance of his life? Maybe. But like I said, this is a pretty bad quarterback slate. I got to say, I think the 2 best quarterback plays overall are in that Cal Virginia Tech game. Now, at the running back position, it's also a position where Nevada has been a little bit of a mess, right? Caleb Ramseur has been their guy on the season, but they also will play Herschel Turner quite a bit. I like Ramseur the best, but Boise's actually not a great run defense. They rank 92nd in rushing yards allowed. That was kind of deceptive. I think Ramseur is the guy you want. His usage lately has been a lot better than Turner, but I don't know. This is a Nevada team, and probably to score 15 points. You don't have to play him. At the wide receiver position, as ineffective as the Nevada passing game has been, you could probably totally avoid this situation as well. Their leading target earner on the season is Marcus Bellon, who is averaging about 6 targets a game. But he's only had 1 game above 9 DraftKings points, and that ain't going to cut it at a salary of $5,000. It's just not looking great. Their second most targeted receiver is Jordan Brown. He's out for the season. Jet Carpenter is the tight end. He's their 3rd most targeted player. Not a bad option at $3,300, but not a great option either. I'm trying to look through and see if there's anything else here that is even worth talking about. Dakota Thomas, 18 targets on the season, but he's all the way up at $3,700. However, the last game they played, he did look to have a little rapport with the quarterback. 8 for 67. Is that something? I mean, maybe Jordan Brown is hurt, so maybe he took over a little bit of Jordan Brown's role. So I had looked at the season totals. I had not looked at the game logs. I could talk myself into Dakota Thomas then at $3,700. But, man, it's pretty ugly. Marshawn Brown is also a guy that is coming on strong as of late, 7 for 75 in the New Mexico game. It's ugly, y'all. Like, this is not a great slate. If we were to do like a sample build, right? Let's say we just go ahead and put in Drones, put in Hawkins, and put in Raphael, right? 5,600 average remaining left. If I put in JKS at quarterback, I've got 5,150 for receivers. I could make that work. I could absolutely make that work. But it's far from a pretty slate. It's far from a comfortable slate. I'm going to have a hard time spreading my exposure out among the quarterbacks on this slate because I do think that the two in the Cal Virginia Tech game are the two best options at the end of the day. Anyway, that's just kind of how I see it, y'all. But that is all the information that you need on this 3-game DFS slate. Hopefully, we gave you guys all the information in order to build some winning lineups. Best of luck to you guys on this Friday night slate. Go check out my Charlotte 49ers. They're on the slate, which they might get blown out. They might get the doors blown off of them, but they are on the slate. And yeah, make sure you're subscribed to the channel that we can be with us for the rest of our college football content. The Saturday main slate episode is live now, so go check that out if you've not already. But that's going to do it here for us on this episode, y'all. Best of luck to you guys on this Friday night slate. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.